Okay, let's get to our last set of questions, let's say, because this is Dick Martejada is trying to figure out two different things. One is how to create an exam where questions are chosen from a pool randomly. Some of you may already know how to do this. And the second is how to resynchronize a lot of audio in a file after the audio has changed. Okay, so let's start with, of course, the questions in pool. This is a pretty cool feature of Captivate, and that is that you can set up your questions into pools and then randomly choose from them. So what I have here is a file that I've created that has, let's see, 78 or so, 76 different questions in them. These all happen to be multiple choice, but it doesn't really matter. And if we go into our quiz and check out the question pool manager, we can see that Captivate does have a built-in pool called Pool 1, which is not very descriptive. And you could, in fact, put all your questions into one pool and then randomly choose from them. That would solve the problem of course, people trying to cheat and so on. In essence, you're just putting all the questions into one big pot and then randomly choosing from them. But you don't have to stop there, because you can actually create several different pools. In fact, as many as you wish, I think. I've never tried to go much past 3 or 4 because it kind of defeats the purpose. But if I were to have, for instance, categories of questions, like these are easy questions, these are medium level questions, these are hard questions, then randomly choosing from them from one big pot may mean that one student, one learner, gets a lot of easy questions and another one gets a lot of hard questions, and that wouldn't be quite fair. So you could say, I'm going to put all my easy questions together, all my medium, all my hard, and then say I'm going to give them say 4 of the easies and 5 of the mediums and 3 of the hards to everybody. But it randomly chooses each of those from the pool. So everybody's going to get 4 easy questions from the easy pool, but randomly chosen, and et cetera, for the others as well. So that's another way to do it too. You could divide up your pools into subject matter. If you had a test that was covering, say, I don't know, physics and biology and chemistry, you could set up pools for that too. I'm going to go ahead and just I'm going to rename this one here easy, and then I'm going to create a second one and call this medium, and I'll do the same thing. I'll do another one and call this one hard. So for the moment, we're just going to presuppose that the questions I'm putting in these are easy, medium, and hard, but of course you'd have to be a little more selective about the questions you're putting in those pools to make sure that those truly are easy, medium, and hard. Now, you notice over here that you could go ahead and just start adding questions into your pool directly, but I hardly ever do that. Also notice that you can import a GIF file. That's another story, which in fact, if you look up here under quiz, you'll see that there's an import GIF format file. Maybe one of you might want to ask me about that for the next time I do this. All right, having said so then, I have set up my question pools, again, easy, medium, and hard. But all my questions, as you noted, are all in the film strip, so they're all the students are getting these questions. But what I can do now is to actually move questions into different pools. So for instance, I can take this first question, and if I right-click on it, say I want to move that question to, oh, there they are, easy, medium, and hard. Those are the pools that I created. So I can say, for instance, this one's a hard one, so I'll put it in there. And now that actually came out of the film strip. It's not there anymore. It's now down here in the question pool called hard. And if I drop this down, you'll see there are my pools again. And if I click on this one, later you're going to see how you can bring these into a test form. Okay, so I'm just going to, for the moment, choose the first 25 or so, 24 or so, and I'm going to put them all into the pool called easy. And so all of those are going to come out of my film strip now, and they're all going to be now in my easy pool. There they are, okay. And I'm going to take the next bunch and put those into the medium pool, move questions to medium. And finally, I'll put most of the remainder, but not all of them, into the hard pool. And I want to show you why I'm not putting all of them in there. I'm going to put these here into the hard pool. So that leaves me with just 2 questions in my film strip, this one here and this one here. Okay, so having said that, if I left these in the film strip, then every student would see these, period, right? Because they're on the film strip directly. But what if I want to add a random question? Well, that's where I come up to my quiz options again and say I want to choose to insert a random question slide. And when I do that, it's going to immediately insert a random question based on whichever pool I have open down here at the moment. But if I decide, no, that I want the first one to be a medium level one, I can just come up here to the properties and choose to make that a medium level question. And once I have one of these in here, I really don't have to keep going up here and saying, give me another one, give me another one, give me another one, because I can just simply duplicate these, right? So if I duplicate like so, and then I choose to, I'll choose both of those and duplicate them again. And then I'll choose all four, duplicate those another time. And so now I'll just choose those 8 and duplicate one more time. Because that's going to give me about 16 questions. In fact, exactly 16 questions for my quiz. So every student is going to see this first question. Oops, I just grouped them. We'll see this first question. And then they're going to see a bunch of random ones. And then at the end of it, they're going to see this one exactly the same. Everybody will see this exact same question. Now, once I've duplicated these, of course, now they're all set to medium, but I can decide now, well, this first one's going to be medium. The next two should be easy. So I'm going to select them two, come over here, and choose to make those easy. Now you'll see that those are linked to the easy. This one's going to be hard, so I'll make that a hard one. And then so on. I can just continue doing that and choose to make my some of them hard, some of them easy, whatever I want to do. Now, again, this is just one example of categorizing the questions, because you could do it by subject matter or other means, but that's that. Now, having done that, you now have a pretty well randomized set of questions in here, except, of course, for this one, which we forced to be the same for all, and then the last one as well. But it doesn't really matter. You could have none of these kinds of questions, none of them that will be seen by everybody. You could have them all be randomized. That's totally up to you. So if we were to preview our file right now, we'll see that the first question will always be the same, and so will the last. But the ones in between will not be. And as I said earlier, this is a pretty cool feature of Captivate. Now, one thing you should know is that you see it says writing the question pool file. When you are publishing this, every question and every pool that you have in this file does have to go into your published file, because it's going to randomly choose them at runtime, when the learner is actually taking the test. So that means that you will be inflating your file if you choose to have very large pools of questions, because you really want to make them totally randomized. Just keep that in mind. Don't go too crazy with the number of questions you have in each pool, because you could really inflate the size of your published file. Not to say it's a terrible thing for that to be, but still. So, as I said, this is the first question we're going to see on every slide. Every time we run this file. I happen to know that's the right answer there. So I'll submit that. It says that's correct, and then we'll move on to the next one. Now this one's going to be randomized, about how long is a day on Saturn. And I'll just choose one at random because I don't really know the answers to these. No, that was wrong. And the next one is which space shuttle carried Hubble to orbit in April 1990? I don't know, maybe it was Discovery. Yay, it was Discovery. And so on. So as I choose these, you'll see that that the questions are coming up. And how do you know they're in random order? Well, because when I run this again, you'll see that the first one will be the same, because that's not one that's randomized, but the other ones will be different, okay? And the best way to really test this is to publish the file, so it doesn't have to go through this procedure every time. But when you publish the file, you can then run it as many times as you want, and you'll see that the questions are going to be different every time, even though you don't have to go through this process of generating every time, because it has to do this on the sly when you're previewing the file. It's actually doing sort of a publish. It is doing a publish, but then it erases it immediately afterwards. So that's why we're having to wait now. And you'll see how much longer it takes when you're previewing a file that has large numbers of questions. And in my case, I have 78, I believe. If you happen to include like several hundred, each one with maybe some images or something, well, you're going to have a large number. So there's our first question, same as before, 29.5. But now, hopefully, we're going to see a different question next. Aha! What makes the moon rise? Magic. What makes the moon rise? The Earth's rotation, I guess. And so on. So now the next one is certainly a different one as well, and so on. That's how you set up randomized questions in a pool. And each person in this case is going to get 18 questions, because that's how many we put onto our timeline. Sorry, onto our film strip. The first and the last being set questions, the rest of them being randomized. But it's as simple as that. Now, if you change your mind about something in a pool, for instance, you say, well, this one here really is not an easy one. That's really a medium one. I can right-click on it and say move the question again to medium or hard. But notice you can also move it back to the main project, which means it's going to go back into your film strip and not be randomized anymore. So there's a lot of flexibility here, because you can change your mind about questions and move them to different pools, or even back onto the film strip when the time is right, if you feel like you need to do that. Finally, I want to point out that under the quiz options again, you have the ability to import question pools, which means that you can open any Captivate file that already has questions and question pools in them and be able to import them directly into your file. It doesn't change the other file in any way. You're just simply importing any question pools from there, or questions, and you can choose however many questions you want out of those, the other file, or whole pools for that matter as well. So that kind of covers, I believe, the that question that you have.